This Tuesday, January 15th, many will be marching in New Haven and singing the civil rights anthem, "We Shall Overcome," all part of the annual Love March, honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and what would have been his 84th birthday. The Love March is organized by the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church in New Haven, and here to tell us more is the church's associate minister, Reverend Anthony Hargett. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning. And this is the Love March's 43rd year.
Yes, it is.
Dr. King's 84th birthday this year. How has the march's relevance changed in these 43 years?
I don't think the march's relevance has changed at all. I think the things that we march for today are the same things that we marched for years ago. I think marching and demonstrating outside is still the way in order to gain attention to what's going on in the world and the things that need to be addressed.
Now, this march was actually organized by the late Reverend George Hampton. His son is the present-day pastor at Shiloh, Reverend Kennedy Hampton Sr. What inspired him to start it?
Well, Reverend George Hampton was at another service honoring Dr. King when the Spirit of the Lord moved him to go back to his church, and there he was given the direction for the what would become the Love March then. The first one was the next year, 1971, and from then on it's been every year.
Now, the elder Reverend Hampton was acquainted with Dr. King, I understand, by way of coalition meetings in Hartford?
They met once in Hartford, yes. Reverend Hampton was working on housing in New Haven at the time, and their paths crossed in Hartford at a coalition meeting.
How interesting. Wow.
It has to be, really.
Now, participation, what kind of crowds do you typically see for the Love March?
We see all kinds of folk, young, old, folks that have been in the struggle for years, folks that aren't familiar with the struggle, and the Love March is a way of reminding folks that the struggle still goes on. And the faces have changed, but the problems are still the same.
I was going to say, because this year's theme, I understand, is put in the form of a question: are we really living the dream?
True, and we have to make sure that folks understand that we have not yet attained what Dr. Martin Luther King died for. We have to remember that we have to consistently fight for our rights all the time, and that we can't let our politicians, we can't let the community sleep on what's going on, and we have to continually demonstrate, because demonstration is the way to gain attention to what's going on. Constant
vigilance, right? It's unfortunate that it's necessary, but it still is.
Well, it's one of those things that you have to remember, that it's not just gaining our rights, is keeping and then advancing our rights.
Now, let's look at some video of a past parade if we can. And as we do that, talk about what you think that Dr. King would say about where we stand as a nation today.
I don't think Dr. King, well,
we are marching. Dr. King's birthday, Dr. King's birthday.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize we had some sound in that too. I'm sorry. Can you continue what you were saying?
I think Dr. King would be pleased with the fact that we are still marching. I think Dr. King also understands the relevance of continued marching, as we talked about continued vigilance. It seems like every time we attain one level, there's forces that align to try to take away what we've already gained. A lot of that was witnessed by the voter suppression activities that went on this year's election. So we have to make sure that we're continually marching, continually drawing attention to the fact that we can't be satisfied. We have to continue to march to gain what is really rightfully ours.
And it looks like there will be a lot of great company out there. Let's talk nuts and bolts about where people can be, for those unfamiliar about where this is happening, where it starts, and so forth. Can you give us some information about that?
Well, the march will start at 11 o'clock at the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, 100 Lawrence Street in New Haven, and our route will take us from Lawrence Street to Whitney Avenue, from Whitney Avenue to Humphrey to State back to Lawrence, and back to the church where we'll be having a service.
All right, very good. Thank you very much, Reverend Anthony Hargett. We sure appreciate your coming in, and it is a wonderful message that Dr. King had, and it's fantastic that you guys are pushing that message, continuing that.
Thank you for having us.